Hi guys, the day after the election of Donald Trump, I wrote on social media, the first rule in politics is to never blame the voters. But the first rule in political analysis is that voters are generally fickle and really stupid. This is why even if you don't follow politics, that it's important you have the basic understanding of what you're voting for. And in a similar fashion to Brexit, which resulted in one of the top UK Google trends being, "What is the EU?" some people who voted for Donald Trump are about to find out just how much they're going to regret the casting of their ballot. Have a listen to this.
I hate to say this, but I think Aristotle might have been right. The public is too stupid to have democracy. I was talking to this woman today who voted for Trump. And I said, so you don't care about healthcare rights? She's like, well, I live in North Carolina. We have a blue governor, so it'll be fine. And I'm like, you realize abortion's already been banned in North Carolina, right? And she argued with me. She said, no, it hasn't. I said, yes, it has. There's a 12-week, 6-day abortion ban here in North Carolina, and it passed. And she said, well, the blue governor wouldn't have signed that. And I said, he didn't. They overrode him because they control 2/3 of the state house and state senate. And this lady looked at me like I was lying. I had to pull it up on my phone and show her the law where abortion is already illegal in North Carolina after 12 weeks. And she freaked out. She was like, I didn't know this. And I said, well, you shouldn't have voted for the fucking Republicans. And it just blows me away that this is most of the American public. Like, the Google trends after Trump won were, what is a tariff? I'm sorry. I really think Aristotle might have been right. The public's just too dumb to have democracy.
He makes a very strong case, doesn't he? You know, a perfect example there of somebody voting against their own interests and hoping, as she pointed out, it was a blue governor, a Democratic governor, that, well, don't worry, I'll be okay because the Democrats will protect me. So think about the selfishness of that as well. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, who has, talked about changing, getting rid of Obamacare. And she's thinking, well, don't worry, I'll be okay because I'm in a blue state. To hell with everyone else. So the selfishness of that as well. But we saw this before with Brexit. The day after the referendum vote, people were Googling, what is the EU? The top search on Google in the UK, what is the EU? See, there's a huge problem here on the side of citizens that are not informed. But there's another problem. The politicians rely on the public not understanding these things. And the media, who should be doing their job by challenging politicians, are not doing their job. How many times have I talked about how Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, Brexiteers go on TV, they spew some sort of tripe, and I have to do a response video on it. Because the politicians are not being challenged. The journalist is just sitting there, allowing them to spew this sort of rubbish, and then it's not getting challenged. And then what happens? It filters down to the minds of the public, and they think, well, Nigel Farage isn't being challenged, so he must be telling the truth. Or Boris Johnson was saying X, Y, and Z about Northern Ireland, or about trade, or about the EU. Well, he's not being challenged, so he must be telling the truth. This is a big problem. Like, when it came to the Brexit referendum, I said as well, it shouldn't have been the job of the public. The public don't understand the difference between the EU and the single market. They don't understand the difference between the EU and the European Convention on Human Rights. They don't understand how these things operate. A lot of people didn't actually know that the UK was a member of the European Union. These are serious problems. A lack of education. We need to bring back civic studies or something like that so that people understand what they're voting for. I had said on a number of occasions there shouldn't have been a referendum. This should have been the job of the parliamentarians. MPs are paid huge salaries to understand these things. The public doesn't have the time to invest in understanding these things. And the European Union and the single market, these are complex ideas, complex concepts. It should have been a vote in Parliament, not a referendum. And if you are going to have a referendum, like in some European countries, you inform the public through transparent, unbiased, independent means. People are sent out information long beforehand, explaining the impact of their vote, the impact of voting one way or the other, so that the public do understand the pros and cons of voting a particular way. That should be the case. It should not be like the Brexit referendum, when on one side you had, a deeply unpopular government with deeply unpopular politicians who were lukewarm towards the European Union, and on the other side you had Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage and charlatans telling people everything will be great, and a media that was not challenging them. That all has to change. Otherwise you're going to have cases like this, as this guy has pointed out, in the US, where somebody is voting to take away their protections, voting against themselves, as we saw with Brexit. And one final thing before we finish here. Before the Brexit referendum, I didn't think people would vote to leave. Part of my gut feeling had believed that they would, but my mind was telling me no, people would not be that stupid. And we're hearing now talk about leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. At the moment, I don't think it's going to happen. But if the media doesn't push back on the likes of Nigel Farage, Reform UK and certain Tories, it will come a day, I'm sure, that the public will be convinced that, yes, it's in their interest to strip away protections to their human rights. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.